Okay. Good morning or afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. Welcome to today's program, the GMS in Africa webinar series. Today, we are going to be looking at the introduction to Africa Geoportal and ESRI tools. We'll be looking at accessing Earth observation, information data, and insights using Africa Geoportal and some ESRI tools. So today we have two speakers who will be joining us from ESRI. We have Karim Asim. He's the Senior Business Development Manager with ESRI. He's a seasoned business development professional, currently serving as the Business Development Manager at ESRI with a background in geospatial technologies and Earth observation. He specializes in expanding market opportunities and fostering strategic partnerships across the energy and environmental sectors. Karim also holds a degree with the University of Calgary, based in the United States of America. We're also going to be having Miss Pauline Okeos. She's the Senior Solutions Engineer with ESRI. Pauline has been a GIS professional with over 15 years of experience, currently serving as the Senior Solutions Engineer at ESRI. She supports the Central Asia, Middle East, and African region, helping organizations to apply GIS solutions to address business challenges and advance the sustainable development goals. Prior to joining ESRI, Pauline led a lot of training activity and service portfolios across 5 countries as a professional services manager at ESRI Eastern Africa. So without much ado, I'd like to welcome once again Pauline and Karim, sorry, to this meeting. Pauline, can you hear me?
Yes, Ignatius, I can hear you. I hope you can
Okay.
also hear me.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. I don't know if, sorry, it's my screen is here and the screens I'm working with them on this side. I apologize. I don't know if Karim, you could say something before I start my
Can
session.
you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, finally. Okay. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you, Ignatius, for inviting us to speak today. Of course, always a pleasure, Pauline, to be with you. So, thank you everyone for joining today. During today's session, we'll showcase basically the Africa Geoportal, um, how you can use the SG tools to configure apps, analyze, monitor, and report on the general impacts based on your use cases, and take relevant decisions. Um, the Africa Geoportal, of course, the first target of it is to advance the spatial literacy, and definitely our target is to support the users in Africa to discover, explore, analyze, and create and share information, of course, using Esri maps, and definitely helping the broader community into inspire and collaborate through geography. So definitely thank you for joining today. Hope the session will be beneficial for you. We're all here. I have only a small correction on Ignatius' introduction to me. So I'm based in Dubai. And I'm the business development manager covering West and North Africa. So feel free to reach out. We're here to help and support you all. Pauline, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Karim. And thank you, Ignatius, for this opportunity to engage with your community on the tools that we have, the ready-to-use content available within ArcGIS, which we are making available to our community of users of young professionals in Africa through Africa Geoportal. So I'll just share my screen and walk you through some of those items that I've mentioned that you can readily make use of. Let me just share. Let me know if you can see my screen and if you can hear me clearly.
Yes, it's visible and we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So for those who are on the call who might not have come across ESRI, I just wanted to quickly share that we are a global company with a very local presence. So as ESRI, we are behind the technology ArcGIS. So that's our premier system under which we have a lot of products that are available for your use when you're working with Earth observation data. So the company is based in the US. Our headquarters is in California. But if you come across the world, we have offices in different parts of the world. So if you're interested, for example, within our region, Middle East and Africa, we have offices across that are covering and supporting our customers or users within 73 countries. And we have a regional presence in Dubai, where Karim and I are based. And if you come to specific countries, we have regional representation also, where we have offices in West Africa, which is mainly being covered from Ghana. For North Africa, it's mainly being covered from Egypt and so on. And beyond that, we have local officers and partners who are always ready to support you in what you're doing. So our main technology, as I mentioned, is ArcGIS, and ArcGIS has been available for close to 60 years. This is something that has continued to evolve with technology, just to provide you with the tools that you need when it comes to work with spatial data or geographic data. So today's session, it's going to be very focused on data specifically from the Copernicus program, because we understand this is very useful data that's freely being provided for use across the world. And I believe it has helped to solve a lot of challenges across our continent as a ready to use available resource across different sectors. We've in being able to support other industries and other areas such as coastline monitoring and so on. So I'll just be using examples, trying to touch on different parts of the world, and I hope you will find this useful and you'll be able to start using them. So for me to be able to do this, I'll focus on tools available within Africa Geoportal. So as ESRI, we're a software company. We sell our software, but beyond that, we have a commitment to our main industry of the geospatial or GIS, whereby we have a number of initiatives under the GIS for Good program, whereby we provide access to our technology at no cost, depending on the needs that are there. So for Africa and looking at young professionals, we have Africa Geoportal, whereby we have combined different resources, as Karim mentioned. So we have data available, we have tools available, and we have learning resources that have been put together to help young professionals in Africa to build capacity in working with geospatial data so that you're able to build meaningful tools and solutions for your community. Because as much as we would love to be able to come in and solve all problems everywhere, we know that the best way to achieve this is that when we have actually young professionals on the ground who are able to execute this. So from Africa Geoportal, if you already have an account, which I'm hoping it's a number of you, you're able to do different things. But if you don't have an account, Once you come to africageoportal.com, you click on Get Started, you'll come to the page for creating a free account. So for creating that account, it does not need much other than your name, your email address, obviously accepting our terms and agreements, meaning that you're using this account for learning purposes. Once you do that, you'll have created an account, you'll receive an email which will allow you to activate your account, and then you'll be able to start doing different kinds of things. So from within the Geoportal, you have access to data, which we will not really touch on that so much today. And you have access to tools. So ArcGIS as a system has different components that allow you to visualize your data, to analyze it, to be able to create applications that support different functionalities. So for example, if you want applications for public use, you can create that. If you want applications to provide some form of situational awareness through dashboards, you can create that. If you want to create long narratives that include maps, you can also use our tools to be able to create that. And the other thing that you're supporting is community activities. And this comes in various ways. The first way is we have partners within the region who we are working with to provide content that is specific to a geographic extent or a development partner's area of interest or area or industry of interest. And the other area is we work with any community across Africa that's interested in involving us through supporting your events. By supporting your events, I mean having webinars or being able to support your learning whichever way we can. So we have those different ways of being able to do that. If we come to initiatives, as I mentioned, we have different countries that we have worked with to have specific portals for data. And then we have different partners. I know previously the Africa has had other sessions with this community, and I'm sure you're aware of some of the data that they've been able to make available, some of which are derived actually from data from Copernicus. So we work closely with a lot of agencies around this. So an example would be Cote d'Ivoire. They have a geoportal, and that's actually where Karim is at the moment. So with the Cote d'Ivoire geoportal, they've been able to disseminate meaningful data that is specific to the country. So we have a partner there, or a national agency actually, that is collecting and analyzing different kinds of data that's useful to the country. And from there, they're able to use the Geoportal to organize and disseminate this information for use. As you can see, the Geoportal by default, the language is French, but if you're not a native French speaker, again, you can come and choose a language that you're comfortable with or familiar with, and automatically the display will change to that language that you've preferred. So this allows us to or removes the barrier of language or the limit of language from me being able to access and interact with data. So as I mentioned, within ArcGIS, we have a point of dissemination of content or ready-to-use content. So with the Copernicus program, they have been a customer of ESRI for a long time. And because we understand that the data they have is very important, we've worked with them to provide access of this data in ready-to-use format, at least for people to be able to make use of this information easily. So for you to be able to access it, and we'll see how you can also bring it into Africa Geoportal, but the starting point where this data is ideally being disseminated from is Living Atlas of the World. So Living Atlas is part of ArcGIS, and it's the foremost collection of geographic information, which includes different kinds of content or data from authoritative sources around the world. And we know that it's usually important to have trusted data or trusted content when you're trying to do your analysis, when you're trying to do your visualization, and so on. So if we come to apps, we'll start with that side. We have ready-to-use apps, whereby we do understand that a lot of people who consume geographic information are not necessarily geographers, data scientists, and so on. They're just a general audience who needs this information. So we have applications that are ready to use that you can take advantage to be able to get immediate insights on the information. But also these applications can be used by professionals who are at intermediate and advanced levels, also to create information that's important for them or important for their work. So I'll be taking the next few minutes just to look at Sentinel-2 Landcamp Explorer. We have a Sentinel-2 Explorer and Sentinel-1 Explorer. We also have another application that's focusing on coastal data, which is looking at eutrophication. That's also part of the Living Atlas, but it's not available on this homepage. But still, if you search for it within the Living Atlas, you should be able to access it. So the Sentinel-2 Explorer is an application. Oh, sorry, let me just go back here. If you want to open any of these applications, once you click on it, you can view application and start making use of it. Just to make it clear, all of these applications, you don't need to have an account. You don't need to sign in unless maybe there's something a bit advanced you'd want to do. So they're readily available for use for anyone, as we also are very keen on providing resources, just looking at the principles that allow you to be able to access data, explore it, make use of it without necessarily having to sign in for anything. So for Sentinel-2 Explorer, the main purpose is it allows us to browse and be able to access the entire catalog of Sentinel-2 data from the time it was launched to date. So from this point, you have access to all the imagery all over the world. It's being provided as a service. So when you have it as a service, it means that the data is hosted somewhere. And from that point, we're just referencing to the entire data set. We're able to render it and we're able to make use of it on the fly from the web. And that makes it easier for you to open it on a browser or for you to open it on a mobile device and so on. And this is a more efficient way of being able to access and make use of this information. So from this interface on the Sentinel-2 Explorer, you can see that you're able to navigate on the map by being able to search specific locations. You're able to zoom in and out in case you're needed. And later on, you're able to share out this information in different formats. Also from the lower pane, you can see you're able to explore different kinds of scenes, swipe to do comparisons, create an animation, perform analysis, and also be able to render different scenes based on the templates that are available. So as you understand, Sentinel-2, it comes available in a number of bands. And whenever you want to highlight a specific theme, such as agriculture and so on, it requires a band combination, where if you put it together, you're able to see where agriculture is thriving. Or if you want to look at other aspects, such as where water is, geology, and so on, you use those band combinations to achieve this. And the good thing with our Explorer is that you're able to do this on the fly. So if I click on any of the specific renderers on the fly, it just applies that entire band combination on all the images on display, which is very light and it quickly provides you with the insights that you need. So in this case, maybe we can try to get to a part of Senegal. And I want to zoom to this part. Let's just give it a bit of time to render, as I was doing all of this from largely when I zoomed out significantly. So it's just going to finish rendering in a few. So from this point, I can see that, let me just zoom in again. In this area, we have the land over here. We have the ocean itself, but we have a section that has, let me just load. But you have sections adjacent to the ocean that may be experiencing different kinds of challenges based on the change in extent along the coastline. So you'll find that normally communities along the coastline face regular challenges in terms of change in sea level and so on. And Sentinel-2 data allows us to have a way of monitoring this information and being able to provide this kind of comparison and so on. So as you see this particular area, maybe I can try to see how it looked like previously. So from my explore section here, if I click on find a scene, you can see I have my year selected and I can choose whichever year that I like to do my comparison from, or just to do my investigations from. So for example, if I'm starting from 2015, I can select the year and we can see when actually within this region that scenes were captured. If I want to get something that's of good quality with minimum cloud cover, then I can adjust my cloud cover filter here and maybe just focus on the ones that meet a particular criteria. So if it's clear, it means it has not met the criteria, meaning that the cloud cover is above 20%. But if it is completely filled, then it means that the cloud cover is actually decent and allows me to look at the information as I need. So I've just clicked on that and let me just yeah. So I've just clicked on that and you can see at that point, this is how the area actually looked like. And I can try to do a comparison with a more recent scene of the same area. So to do that, I can do my swipe. And on my left scene, I'll keep the scene that was there that I captured. Then on my right scene, I can try and use maybe the year 2020 and try to use a similar period just for consistency. And from that, if I do my comparisons, you can see that there's been a bit of change within this area, whereby I'm guessing due to deposits being made as the water is coming in from the river into the ocean. You can see this part has actually extended over time. And this can mean many things about the biodiversity that's around this area, the population that's around this area, and the kind of effect that they might experience based on these changes. And also beyond that, within the Sentinel-2 Explorer, you're able to animate. If you have different scenes and you want to show change over time, you're able to create an animation and share it out as a GIF or GIF, or you're able to do analysis. Again, if you're looking at different indices such as a water index, built up area index, and so on. And whichever change that you make to the map and it's something that you'd like to share out, then you can either create a link, which is going to take all the settings that you've applied, including the map extent, and share it out to someone you'd want to make use of the map. You can create a screenshot, or you can save this map or save the outcomes, and then you're able to reuse it elsewhere. So this Explorer allows you to do so much with Sentinel-2 imagery, where you're able to render where you're able to access the imagery, filter out specific dates, then also apply different renderers that change how this data is visualized. We have another Explorer. This is the Sentinel-1 Explorer that focuses on Sentinel-1 imagery. I think if you click the About app, you'll be able to see that information. So we are looking at Sentinel-1 imagery that's mainly being served by ESA, but being able to come up with this application and everything else around it, it's a collaboration between all these organizations. So what you can do again with the Sentinel-1 Explorer, similar to Sentinel-2 Explorer, is that you're able to load data based on the period that you're interested in. So it will be ascending or descending because, as it's explained here, the image is collected day and night. So in one case, it can be collected north to south is descending basically, and south to north is ascending. So it just depends on when the data was being captured. So it's just going to immediately classify whether it was ascending or descending. So we have different renderers again here that allow us to identify water index. For example, if you're looking at flooding, water anomaly, which we are going to be looking at in this scenario, and other colorized indices that you may be interested in. So in this case, I've zoomed to a particular area that's not within the West Africa or North Africa area, but it's still Africa. This is Mauritius, and I just wanted to showcase how Sentinel-1 can be used in identifying anomalies within water. In this case, in Mauritius, there was an oil spill that took place in 2020 that affected this particular region. So for me to be able to do the comparison, I believe this took place in, let me just verify, August 10. So I'm going to get an image from around that time. And you can see it's just identifying, because already I've applied the water anomaly renderer. So it's just showing us areas where there is water, but it looks like there's something off. So that's normally how they're able to pick up immediately from imagery available from Sentinel-1. On the fly with this application, you're able to immediately see where oil spills have taken place. So you can see that this is where initially it was visible, but if we come to 21st August, you can see how it continued to spread over different areas. I think it looks a bit widespread, but I'll be able to filter that out shortly. And if you look at 28th again also, and now it has shown very clearly what was there. So you're able to see areas that we had the oil spill, which it makes it easier now to have a focused or targeted way of being able to find or being able to address this situation, so that if any cleanup is planned, it's targeted. You're able to immediately see where you need to go and do the cleanup. So if someone was to use this application, they are able to identify where the oil spill is, then they can use the Analyze tool. As you can see, I'm just focusing on the water anomaly, and it's going to pick that information, but we can adjust here our scale so that we capture as much as possible, that information as much as possible, and then we can clip our display just to focus on that area. So from that point, I can be able to save out this information and share it out within the ArcGIS system and have it available for use from that point. And this is, again, a very effective way for immediate action. If you want to do more detailed analysis in this, more accurate outputs, that's still possible, because you can take the image itself, take it into another part of the ArcGIS system, and be able to do proper analysis using some of the tools that we have. So some of those tools actually have deep learning capabilities that allow you to run these tools on your image and be able to accurately extract areas where you have oil spills or areas where you have anomalies that would be detrimental to the environment, the surrounding environment. The last explorer that we have is the Sentinel-2 Land Cover Explorer. And this one, basically, it's a derived output from Sentinel-2, whereby they have taken all the different years from 2017 and they've processed the imagery using AI, and they're able to classify the whole world and come up with the different land uses or land covers across the world. So you can see just based on this key, you're able to see where we have water, flooded vegetation, built areas, and so on. If I want to focus specifically on any of these, if I click here on the key, I'm able to filter out and only focus on specific areas and so on. So I think for this analysis, I just want to look at Freetown. And this is in Sierra Leone. And you're able to see over the years, or in 2017, this is actually what the land cover, this is what it looked like then. And I can play the animation just to see how it has changed over time. So you can see the urban area or the settlement area, the built area, has been growing over time. Tree area keeps on varying in change with trees and so on. And also cropland, you can see that cropland is actually growing or changing. So if you focus on this section, you can see how we keep on having that varied change from cropland to flooded vegetation, which could be mangroves or any other vegetation that is very rich in biodiversity that's along that end, which I think we know that a lot of ecosystems that are marine or coastal actually depend on this vegetation to be able to thrive. So you can see from there that this keeps on changing. And again, one of the things that you can do is you can decide to download this animation and use it for that. You can share it out as a link, but also there are some of the things that you're able to do from this particular application is if you click on a specific point, you'll see how that area has looked like over time. And you'll see that it keeps on changing from croplands to flooded vegetation, which could be many reasons. It could be maybe sometimes in some years there's been a bit of flooding, which pushes agriculture out, maybe change in water extent, sea levels, and so on. And you can see some areas that it tends to be buried, which we are hoping that it is balanced, because as much as we want to achieve food security, it's also important to balance that with conservation or just biodiversity protection. Again, something else you can do within the application is you're able to see changes over the years with the different kinds of land cover. So you can see for trees, it keeps on changing. For flooded vegetation, also it keeps on changing, and so on. And you're able to download this information as CSV for the particular area. Also, if you want to download the GeoTIFF as it is, that's something that's possible, and you can use it in other areas if that's your interest. And you can do comparison similar to what I had shown in the other explorers. So these are ready to use tools that are available that are either directly using ESA imagery as is, or we have this derived output whereby AI or machine learning was used to process all the imagery, classify it, and come up with the different outputs. And then we have another application that's built and hosted within Living Atlas, and it's the coastal eutrophication application that allows us to see where we have high levels of eutrophication, which is based on compounds of nitrogen and phosphorus. So if you open that application, this is what it looks like, and you're able to see based on different exclusive economic zones, you are able to get a sense of what's the concentration of chlorophyll at given time. So let's say if I came to here, Guinea, and if I just clicked at this point, I'm able to see what have been the changes over the year. From 2005 all the way to 2021. And again, we can only focus on that particular country, or we can try to see based on all of sub-Saharan Africa, as well as if we wanted just to compare how is it in Guinea compared to all of West Africa and so on. So this application allows us to do that. We can also try to look at this information on a monthly average, and you can see basically in March, in this particular zone, it tends to be high. As you can see, the concentration is quite high over a large area. But if you come to other times, like September, you can see that it goes considerably low. So with this concentration, obviously, it affects other activities such as fishing, the sustainability of other biodiversity there, and so on. So this provides a very useful resource to be able to get a sense of how changes in those nutrients actually affects what is there. So this application was built out of a huge collaboration. One bit is Blue Planet, of which the Copernicus program is actively involved in that. And you are able to download this data and make use of it, the chart data anyway, in other areas of work. So other than that, within the Living Atlas, other than applications, you can have access to the data sets themselves. So we do understand that we also have professionals who want to access the data and make use of it. And I'll just, again, take the next 10-ish or so minutes just to walk you through some of those layers that we have available. As you can immediately see, we have the Sentinel-2 data, but you also have other layers that are available for use. So if you're looking at Sentinel-2, how we've organized our data is that you can get a sense of what that content item is. In this case, it's Sentinel-2, when it was published, when it was updated. You can see it's quite recent. The usage statistics, which is usually very important for you to ascertain credibility or popularity of data, but you also have markers of authoritative, just to indicate that it is credible, or it's from a credible source, in this case, European Space Agency. So if I open it in Map Viewer, you'll see it here. I just have the Sentinel-2 views that I was able to add onto my map here. And on display, I had just zoomed to, this is the Delta, where we have the Nile coming into the Mediterranean Sea here. So again, similar to what we were able to do from the explorers, there are many things that you can do from this point. And from the map viewer, you have access to different capabilities within them. So first of all, you can apply processing templates. So by default, it's on natural color, but you can change it to agriculture, and you'll see it just applies that rendering immediately on the fly for you to be able to use it to highlight different things that you may be interested in. If you're interested also in different kinds of indices, as you can see, we have something for the built up areas and DVI and so on. So these are readily available for use. So just to clarify, the map viewer and every other thing I'll mention on this page, they're available for users who have an Africa Geoportal account. So when you moved from here ideally, you can see I have signed into my Africa Geoportal account, and I'm able to open this into a map viewer. And from there, I have the layer of Sentinel-2 views. It's coming in as a service, and I'm able to use it. So I can apply different kinds of renderings. I can decide to filter and only focus on a scene, a particular period in time of my interest. But you also have tools for analysis that I can take advantage of. So within ArcGIS, and this is the online side that supports WebGIS, we have access to tools for you to be able to do analysis online. And you can see from this point, I'm able to do some of those analysis or bits of analysis that will be relevant to imagery. Beyond that, or something that's of interest, is if I want to do deep learning, then that capability has been enabled online. So I can classify, that is, if I'm interested in doing land cover classification, the tools are there, I can make use of them, but I can also detect objects. For example, if I wanted to detect ships that are in water or boats that are in water, I'm able to detect that and any other object that I'd be interested in. So we have pre-trained models that you can use for that, which I'll be showing you shortly. So other than Sentinel-2, from Sentinel-5P, we have a number of layers available for use. So we have the nitrogen dioxide, ozone, and so many other imagery layers that are capturing measurements of gases all over the world. So if you just looked at the Sentinel-5P nitrogen dioxide, this is what it appears like basically. And just from the scale, you can see places where it's low and places where it's concentrated. If I zoom to Algeria, then I come to my processing templates, I can apply this colorized renderer or processing template, which will just now filter out everything else where the values are not substantial, and we just focus on where values are substantial. And you can see in some areas here near Algiers, it's quite concentrated. And again, you have access to the analysis tools for you to do further analysis to it. And you can also add your own data. If you want, you can add your own data. You can search for other data online and be able to add this. An example would be for the OpenStreetMap group, they have data on settlements. So you can bring in information on settlements and overlay with your nitrogen dioxide data and be able to quickly analyze how many settlements or what is the population estimate that will be affected by the high values in this and so on. We also have data that's being time enabled. In this case, we are looking at a derived data set from Sentinel-2, whereby they're able to do analysis over the years. This is basically what is feeding the Sentinel-2 Explorer that we saw. So if this is opened in a map viewer, and you can also look at it in 3D, that's something you can explore later. We have it here looking at Senegal again, and I can use different processing templates. Again, if I want to focus on a specific land use, then I can filter that information and just have that information ready for use. And beyond that, I can enable my time and I have my animation there. From that point, you can see changes in the extent of our mangroves or flooded vegetation, basically vegetation that's at the water's edge and so on. And that's readily available for use. So we also have other layers which we might not have time to go through all of them, but these are resources I'll share back with you after this webinar. So under the ESA land cover, we have a lot of information that's been captured, analyzed, and made available. Some of it from their climate change initiative, which is closely monitoring how we expect land to change over time given effects of climate change. So we have those different layers. We have areas which where they were able to predict what they would look like in the future in 2050. So you can see areas that are vulnerable to climate change and areas that are not vulnerable to climate change, which have been classified in different colors. So we have so many other layers that have been made available thanks to European Space Agency. And another layer that we have is the average wind speeds by month and altitude. So this is relatively new, as you can see, just recently published barely a month ago, and it's from the Copernicus program. And this layer is multidimensional, meaning that it's data that's been captured taking different dimensions. In this case, we have different levels. So we have from the surface that's next to the Earth's surface all the way to, or high up, looking at wind that will be necessary for commercial aviation for flights. So you can see it's just next to the Earth's surface all the way to 8 kilometers above into the sky. And here the unit is just pascals. So if you open in a map viewer, you'll have it appearing like this, which is just pretty cool, to be honest. So I can use my multi-dimensional filter here to change my visualization and just focus on what I'm interested in. As you can see, this is looking at very high up into the sky. But if I brought it down to 100,000 pascals, you can see the change there, just showing us how the winds are at that particular time, which is January. Generally, what are the winds speeds at that time? If we're looking at May, you'll see that a change will just come in shortly. I think it has. It's only that I haven't seen. But you can see how basically the winds are flowing at any given time. And this affects so many things around this time, a lot of activities on the coastline or within this ecosystem. Again, you're also able to change to different times, and you can see that winds change. And yeah, it affects a lot of activities, movement, fishing, and so on within this area. And this is available for use, and you're able to change your different styles. So the style, because it recognizes that this is a data set that has the variable of direction and the speed of the wind. So it's using this flow style to allow us to visualize this information based on that. So that's also available within Living Atlas. You can open it within your Africa Geoportal account and use it just to visualize different kinds of things and so on. And the final data set that we have is this one on global stream flows. So this is GeoGlows, which is, again, a collaboration of many entities, including Copernicus program, whereby they were able to take many variables, mainly defined by elevation, and they created a model. And from this model, they're able to determine what is the flow of water in an area and predict this information and provide a 10-day forecast. And this has been very useful ever since it was made available. So you want to focus within particular areas, what would be the change in stream flow and what does that mean for those populations around there. And again, it's time enabled so that you're able to visualize based on different times as you get to the 10 days. So if I play my animation here, you can see for this yellow, which means that you have increased water flow. As you can see, it's just coming towards into the ocean here, and you'll see it will drain over time. Also, you'll see for some of the rivers here towards the north of Morocco, again, the water extent in terms of the width of the lines actually changes, meaning that we're expecting to have increased water flow. And you'll notice that a lot of, as it gets towards the ocean, that's where coastal flooding tends to happen. So from this, you can predict when we have increased water flow and probably take immediate action. So from the legend, it actually shows where we have normal, where we have increasing values that might be detrimental or might cause a disaster. So this provides a very useful tool for immediate course of action, maybe for any decision makers that need to take action when it comes to disasters. So all of these are layers that are available within ArcGIS. And for example, if you're creating this for Morocco, like they needed to use it right now, what you could do is, instead of just sharing it out as it is, you can create an application from it. So this is a web map, and it's available as a web map within Living Atlas. So when you open the web map, you're able to create an application from it. So on Africa Geoportal have access to different templates which you can use to create applications. So for my instant app, once I click here, it launches me to this point where I can choose from many templates which one actually would be well suited for my map. So for example, I want my users to be able to interact with data. You'll see it just filters my display to only focus on maps templates or app templates that will be useful for that. So we have one for Streamflow Viewer, which you can just preview. And from this point, it will just give us a sense of what does that application look like when configured. So again, it gives us that time slider. That's very useful. And from the time slider, if you were to, this is just for preview purposes, if you were to click on any section here, it gives you a skill that allows you to see for that particular location, what would be the flow or up to what level would it get. So if you're comfortable with the template you've chosen, which in this case, this is the best suited, you're able to create your application. And again, if I came back to here in Morocco and I have my time slider there, you'll see as it moves, it's able to provide that information. And sorry, I keep on forgetting to click here. So if I clicked on that point, it's going to just give me that focused information. That's loading. So at that point, it's just telling me on May 10th, this is the that it will be about 40 cubic meters passing at that point. And we can see that the peak is actually supposed to be tonight at 11 p.m. So the thing about our maps, it's using my time zone actually to estimate this. So if you open this same map in your time zone, it will show a different time, because that just makes it efficient in having the accurate information, basically. So from here, the app template, I'm able to see all the information I need, test out the application. Again, I can change things like the theme or the layout of my app. For example, I want it to be dark mode and so on. And once that is done and published, the application will be ready for use for anyone who needs to make use of it. Of course, you can still add a logo, link to other applications and so on, and have it available for use. So all of these are just different data sets that are available within Living Atlas that come from the Copernicus program that have supported a lot of activities or work around the world. So beyond what we have within our online platform, we also have our desktop. So within the desktop, we have ArcGIS Pro. This is the leading desktop application, very advanced, very easy to use when it comes to working with geospatial data. So for those who've not interacted with ArcGIS Pro before, but you used ArcMap, this is pretty much the same thing, only that we have made it better in terms of processing. So it's multi-threaded, meaning that it's taking advantage of all the processor cores within your workstation to improve performance in terms of analysis, visualization, and so on. And also we have a contextual menu that makes it easier for you to identify like which tools do you need for any purpose. So for example, if I'm doing analysis on my tab here, it only focuses on tools specific for analysis and so on. So also within ArcGIS Desktop or within ArcGIS Pro, I'm able to bring in data from European Space Agency that's hosted on Living Atlas. So if I came to my portal here, then I have access to Living Atlas. And if I just said Sentinel, it's going to filter out this display here and just bring the necessary information for me for Sentinel that's available. Yeah, so you can get it from there. But also, other than just accessing the service, we have an alternative way of you being able to access this information. And for you to be able to do that, we've made it possible for you to have access through a Stack connection. So this is going directly to the server and allowing you to not only be able to view this data and make use of it within the desktop application, but you can create your own mosaic data set from it and have it hosted somewhere for specific use. So instead of having like all of the world being available on your application or the desktop, you can create a Stack connection. There's a blog article that I'll share with you that shows you how to do it. Basically, you need to define your cloud storage and using an account that you create from the Copernicus side, define your cloud storage, create a Stack connection, which you can see it here. And then from there, I'm able to explore the Stack. So if I come to explore the Stack, you can see that all these data sets, I believe 120 are being made available within your desktop application. So I can decide to, I just want to focus on Sentinel-1. I have my date and time specified. In this case, I want to look at April, I believe. So I'll have April 12th. And my end date will be April 29th, April 29th. Yeah, and I'll have my extent defined as my current display extent. In this case, this is Port Harcourt in Nigeria. That's defined there. I can define other attributes if I'm interested in this, and then I can choose to view the results. And then it's going to bring in the results of my query over there. So you can see that I have my Sentinel-1 data being brought in. This was collected on 21st April 2025, and this is Sentinel-1A. And all of that information, as you can see, we have a lot of resources. The Sentinel-1C available, and this is actually the one that you can also use for your own actual analysis for detecting water anomalies like oil spills and so on. So once that is available, I can add them to my display. So if I selected all of them, I can choose the option of adding to current display, or I can create a mosaic data set. So if I add them to current display, basically that's what it would look like for my Sentinel-1. As you can see, we just have a number of them that have been pieced together over there. If I created my mosaic data set, this is ideally where it will be brought in. Again, I can do some bit of work with within Pro. So for example, I can apply raster functions or renderers, just looking at the band combination or what's available within this layer and be able to get outputs for different kinds of things. So if I had imagery that was supporting from Sentinel that supported the ability to get NDVI and so on, immediately if I clicked on this, I will get an output. So I can use this just to be able to visualize and not derive, but just for the sake of looking, I can get a sense of maybe what my, what do you call it, aspect and slope is. So if I zoom in, you'll see that it actually changes a bit. Just looking at slope and aspect based on the information that's been captured from the Sentinel-1. So you can see obviously different areas there within Port Harcourt and so on within the terrain, which provides useful information for different purposes. Yeah, so just as I wind up on this, I'd like to show a few things. So because our technology keeps on evolving, we also understand the need of, other than display and analysis within ArcGIS, sometimes you want to advance this using AI. So what we've done is we've made available deep learning packages or pre-trained models that you can apply or that work with Sentinel-2 data, or that work with data from European Space Agency or from the Copernicus program. So you can see if you want to do your own land cover classification that's focusing on this image from ESA, then you're able to do that. So we have the pre-trained models that are available. I think you saw previously on the map viewer, I showed that with deep learning, we have tools there. So you just feed in your pre-trained model and able to do different kinds of analysis. So if I'm looking at oil spill detection, if I open that, it just gives me the specific, or takes me to the specific model. Pre-trained model just gives a description, and trusted with ESRI will give you as many tools as possible to help you make use of other tools. So in this case, you have a guide, and the guide goes into great detail, breaking down how do you take advantage, or how do you make use of this model. So you'll see it just tells you, first of all, make sure that you have access to the right band. Yeah, Sentinel-1C band. Make sure you have access to that one. That's the one you've accessed. Go to the tools, go to the speckle and do what you need to do. Then all these other tools that you run, and you're able to finally get the specific extent of the oil spill, which is very important in terms of knowing how many resources in terms of time, machines, and so on that need to be involved to take care of the situation. So this is available within ArcGIS as tools that you can take advantage of. Yeah, and all of these resources are available. We have story maps that have been created to explain what the different layers are that we've brought into ArcGIS from the Copernicus program, what they actually monitor, and what does it look like basically. So we have story maps that support that. We have blog articles that have been shared by colleagues. This is just covering what I'd mentioned on Stack, being able to access this from the data space, Copernicus data space, where you're able to create your cloud store, create a Stack connection, and be able to access that repository and start making use of it. And we have tutorials available for free, whereby like for example, this one for mapping floods, it's 45 minutes. And you can see we make available the steps, we make available the data that you need for your different analysis and so on. And we provide steps on you to be able to do that. So you'll notice that within Earth observation, within this broad industry, the workflows are very similar. So when you're doing your analysis for flooding, you'll see you add data, prepare your layer, all of those things and so on. It's similarly the same workflow you'd go through when you're doing oil spill detection and so on. So it's so once you know how to do this within this particular model, you're able to repeat that to that different model and so on. And also beyond having it available on the desktop application and so on, you can use notebooks. So if you're familiar with Python, if you're familiar with scripting, you're able to do all of that. And you also have tutorials on working with satellite imagery, which touch on different levels. So from beginner all the way to advanced, we have made it possible for you again to interact with imagery and learn how to be able to do different functions or achieve different goals or objectives when it comes to working with imagery. And with that, I'll hand it over back to Ignatius. Yeah, I think if there are any questions, I can also address them now.
Thank you very much, Pauline.
Okay.
Very insightful information. Just give me a second. I need to mute a secondary device.
Okay. I think as you're doing that, Ignatius, I can answer some of the questions that are here. The first question I can see is that if Living Atlas is integrated as part of ArcGIS Pro, yes, it is. As I showed from your catalog, if you come to Portal, we have access to Living Atlas and you're able to access the entire repository from this point. Yes. Database of geospatial data. Is it open source? It's open data. Let me put it that way. So this is collaboration with a lot of agencies. We have global, regional, national agencies that have made this data available. So it's open, available for use, for you to make use of it in different things. Now, sometimes some of those data providers want to get a sense of this data being used globally. Where are the users? So that requires that you have an Africa Geoportal. Sorry, it requires that you have an account, which you can create on Africa Geoportal, or if you have procured technology, if you've bought ArcGIS, also your account can allow you to access some of this data. So that's because some of the data providers, the same way you go to their portal and they say create an account to access the data, it's the same way that we are saying as ESRI, we are being the middle person whereby we will support this data provider at least to know where is the popularity in usage. So they have like a heat map of the whole world where they see, okay, there's a lot of interest in this particular region for a specific data set, which helps them a lot in planning in terms of improving performance for that area. That means, do we need to have like copy of the data set hosted locally or hosted somewhere close to them? Do we need to have projects that are looking to provide more attributes or more specific outcomes or outputs for that area? So that's how they're able to do that. So in summary, we have a lot of open data, authoritative open data on Living Atlas, and you can access it. And in addition to that, we have providers who just want to have a sense of who is accessing this information, whereby you can use your free Africa Geoportal account or any ArcGIS account to access it. There's a question on when was Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2 launched. My understanding is that Sentinel-2, I think it was 2015, if I'm not wrong. Please, anyone with the correct information can just chime in. Anybody? Maybe put it in the chat.
Yes. Sentinel-2 was in 2015, I think June 2015.
Yeah, and Sentinel-1? Okay, the other question is how frequently are they updated? So for Sentinel-2, I believe it should be every 11 or so days, if I'm not wrong. So I can say in a month, the sweeps would range between 3 and 5 across that same location, depending on when the month starts and when it ends. So the sweep or swipe can be between 3 to 5 times, of that imagery. What you may hope is that it's a clear day when it is passing, because cloud cover sometimes can render it impossible to really get a clear view of some of these areas. That's the challenge we generally have with satellite imagery, that sometimes when the sensor passes, it's covered by clouds. And then the other thing is what else? Yeah, so you'll find that along coastlines, in some coastlines, they're mostly covered by clouds than not. So that becomes a challenge. But I think this is where the Digital Earth Africa GeoMat datasets, they really came through, because what they've done is they've created a composite over time. So you have a general sense of what the place looked like. Which is better than not having anything, to be honest. So I think that data really helps in a lot of scenarios. Oh wow, what is the left and right swipe in Sentinel-2 clearly telling us?
Pauline, if I could just clarify some information related to the Sentinel-1 and the Sentinel-2, that particular question. So the Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2 are not singular satellites. They're a suite of satellites. So currently there are 3 Sentinel-1 satellites, and then there are, I think, about 3 Sentinel-2 satellites that have been launched into orbit. Unfortunately, one of the Sentinel-1s failed. So now we currently have only 2 in orbit, and they were launched at different dates. I think for the Sentinel-1 between 2014, and one was also launched, that's the Sentinel-1C, was launched just last year. So the combination of all these satellites helps to reduce the temporal resolution and availability of data. For instance, the Sentinel-2 satellites you'd have one repeating every 10 days, but with the second one now you're having a repeat period of up to 5 days. Yeah, so just that clarification. You can proceed.
Thank you so much. I'm happy it's every 5 days now. There's a question, how reliable is the AI integration in terms of confidence of data on land cover? Wow. I would say it's very reliable. So what we had with, I believe this is the Sentinel-2 land cover dataset that we have. This was collaboration where ESA came in, where Clark's University came in, Microsoft involved. There's so many institutions that were involved to do this. And I believe they did their best with the model to come up with the output. So we have a blog article on our site that explains all of this, which I will share with Ignatius as resources after this call. Just it will get into more details on all considerations that were made with that model. Now, let me also add that this model that ran across the whole world, there were areas where it was fine-tuned for specific ecosystems. And it worked and the results came out. We have received over time feedback from users that some places are not accurate. And again, that has been run with that in mind, fine-tuned further to factor in it's like literally ground truthing based on feedback from our users. So we that is always a continuous process. That's why you'll see like for that particular layer, we continue to update it based on different factors, feedback from our users, even when the models keep on being fine-tuned, because as time has gone, AI keeps on getting better and better. So as that is being as developments are being made, we are also plowing it back into that whole process to have more accurate outputs. The next question is, what African young engineers or researchers will expect to this introduction and can access it easily? So yeah, with Africa Geoportal, let me just show you here. So once you create your account, you will be able to sign into a portal. To sign in, to just come to arcgis.com and use your credentials, username and password. You'll be able to sign in. So from that point, you can create a map, what you saw with what I had with the map viewer. So you can have the map viewer and analysis tools. You can add different kinds of data. By default or natively within our system, ArcGIS, you can host your own data and be able to add it to maps, but you can add different kinds of data from that point. Sorry, I'm looking for the one I had opened. Let me just use this one. So beyond that, you also have access to a scene. You can create 3D maps. You can work with Python from this point, and you can manage your own content. So you can add your own data and host it within our infrastructure. We support you in doing that. And then the app templates that I mentioned. So if you want to create a data collection form that works offline, you can use Subway 123 for that. If you want to create dashboards that summarize information based on different indices, you can do that. Custom applications, story maps, all of that is available to anyone with an account on Africa Geoportal. And as I showed, it's very easy to create an account. Once you go to africageoportal.com, click on Get Started, then on that page, you will be able to create an account. Can you import AOIs into the Explorer to look at that particular area? That is something that a request we have received severally, and it's something that we intend to include over time. So initially when we had the Explorer, it was just that you are able to visualize different scenes, do a bit of analysis, but now what we incorporated is that you can push some of the things you've created, outputs, like when you saw we did analysis, you're able to filter out information, you can push it onto your Africa Geoportal contents space or to your folder basically. But now because you want to be able to import an AOI, this is a request that we have received, and I'm sure this is something that our teams are working on to be able to bring them in. Do you have any coastal parameters like salinity, SST? So we do have coastal parameters from other sources that are not within the Copernicus. So maybe I'm so sorry, I have so many tabs open. So if we come here to environment, then you come to oceans. we have about 91 layers, and of all those layers, you can see that we have seafloor, salinity, chlorophyll, blah, blah. We have a lot of them available that you can use together with your data from the Copernicus program to get actionable insights. So all of those are available within Living Atlas and within your Africa Geoportal account and on ArcGIS Pro if needed. From Cameroon, hi, is it possible to download those data directly from the platform? So to be able to download, as at now, it's possible to get derived insights from the Explorer applications. I believe this is the tab. Let's see. So if I think it's this one. Let's see. Publish. No, this is pushing online. I think it's the Sentinel. Yeah, so you can download a GeoTIFF from the Sentinel-2 Land Cover Explorer so you can download it directly from this point. If you are looking at the layers that I mentioned, what you need to do is you run a tool to extract it, to extract that information. So you have to run a geoprocessing tool where you say, for this particular extent, I want to extract this information. Otherwise, you can just, from here, the Sentinel-2 Explorer, you can extract a GeoTIFF of the already processed information. And now the workaround also for Sentinel-1 and so on is, once you push this to your Africa Geoportal account, you can run that geoprocessing tool to extract that information into whichever format, so GeoTIFF or whichever, yeah. And I believe that's it with the questions. Oh, okay, wait, there are more questions. Do you have an in-learning platform for interested users? Yes. I believe that's the last thing I had shown. So we have lessons that you can do. Our site, this is a tutorials page, but if you just type the word learn and ArcGIS, you will get access to the tutorials. Yeah, you'll go to Google and then it will direct you here. So the thing about our tutorials, because we understand we support a very diverse continent, is that it's also available in different languages. So if I wanted this in French, it actually provides the same tutorial in an alternative language. So it's the same information where you're able to do this, access your tutorials and make use of them. And also we have another site that provides training. Again, I will provide all these resources after that. So we have a training site where your Africa Geoportal account can direct you to. And from that point, because people have two reasons for learning. One reason is you want to know how to do something. Another reason is you want evidence that you can do something. So from the training portal, if I come to catalog here, course catalog, then I choose the free courses. You'll see we have training seminars available for free. Oh, we have one here on, how convenient. So we have this, it's a lab, you can do it for free. It's only 1 hour and 25 minutes. And the thing that you will get after that is you will get a certificate from ESRI once you have completed. Please note it is only after you have completed that you will get the certificate. Now you have achieved that you will learn how to do something and you have a certificate indicating that you really can do the thing that you mentioned. So it's a certificate of completion. Yeah. And I think that's it. I think Ignatius, you can.
Okay, thank you very
Cover.
much, Pauline. Had I known we were going to get so much information from this particular webinar, I would have probably scheduled it for at least 2 hours. And it's good to know that there are lots of opportunities also available for people who are willing to learn. In fact, I just completed one of these courses myself just yesterday, and I was able to receive my certificate. So I'd encourage all of you to be able to participate in some of these programs and learn and apply some of the tools that are available for you. So I'd like to thank you all for joining. But before we go, I'll just invite also from the audience, if anybody has some comments, I usually allow 2 or 3 people. I open up the microphones for them, and then they can also ask questions, after which we can enable our cameras and get a fun group picture before we finally close out the session. So if you have any comments, please just raise your hand. Use the button to raise your hand. I'll open up the microphone for you, and then you can ask any other pressing question. And then we can proceed to take the picture. Okay, so whilst we're waiting, I'll just urge all of you to turn on your camera so I can just get a quick snapshot for our reporting. So if we can just do that, quickly turn on all our cameras. Pauline, that includes you as well. Okay. Razak, once we're done with the picture, I will enable your microphone and then you can ask your question. 10 seconds more, just counting down before we take a picture of our trainees, our participants for today. Okay, and judging by our participants also, Pauline, we see that there are loads and loads of people who are interested in the products that are available for us, going all the way from meteorological agencies to the Ministry of Fisheries to water resources, who are all represented here. We are very thankful for making it. I mean, we are even honored to have the Deputy Director of the Ghana Meteorological Agency even tuning into this training. And this tells us how important some of these sessions are to our national institution. So thank you very much, Mr. Portofi, and everyone for joining us. I would open up the microphone for the question. So Razak, if you can just unmute and then you can ask your question. Razak, your microphone has been enabled. Just unmute and then you can ask your question. Okay, we also have Davis or Devis. Devis, your microphone has been enabled.
Okay, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you, Razak.
Yes, we can hear you, Razak. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I am Razak Muisola Zokomi, an undergraduate student from Lagos State University. So I'm sorry, I joined very late a bit today. So I've had access to the Africa Geoportal since I joined a webinar from FIG Africa, I think the last webinar session. So, but during, I think it was February or March, so I was doing the work on what they call ArcGIS Pro. Then all of a sudden I was logged out, and ever since then I've not been able to use the ArcGIS Pro ever since then. So I don't know. I think there was an update from ArcGIS Africa, but maybe there is new existing feature or something like that. So ever since then, I've not been able to access Africa. I mean, usual. So I don't know if this has been notified or I need to do something else for me to get it on.
Okay, thank you very much, Razak.
Okay,
thank you very Pauline, much, would you want to
Yeah.
intervene now?
Yeah, sure. I'm receiving some. Okay, I think it's clear now. So thank you, Razak, for your question. So for the FIG team last year, or YSN, we had a webinar during GS Day where we announced that licenses will be available, which they were available from that time until this year. So we have an agreement with FIG that all members of FIG, YSN, so YSN is the Young Surveyors Network globally. They have access to our technology through another platform. So maybe I request that you contact me after this, then I'll link you up with the general officials of that platform, where you'll have access to more powerful capabilities. Because the Pro we had on Africa Geoportal was up to a certain level, and the one that's being made available from the FIG site is the advanced, like with all extensions. So yeah, just contact me and then I'll link you up to the right people.
Okay, thank you, Pauline. Davis, you can go ahead with your question.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
You said about Sentinel 1 and Sentinel 2. And I would like to know why the two Sentinels are called the twins. Why their mission basically consists of two identification satellites operating together. I finish.
Okay, thank you. Davis, so with the Sentinel-1 and the Sentinel-2 satellites, so the Sentinel suite of satellites all have different applications and different sensors mounted on each of these particular satellites. For the Sentinel-1 satellite, it is mainly a radar satellite, so you're not going to get certain features that you're getting on Sentinel-2. Sentinel-2, Sentinel-3 are all optical satellites. So you are going to have also different applications. So you have the ocean land color imager on the Sentinel-3, and then you are going to have other features also on the Sentinel-2. For the Sentinel-5, you're going to have like Pauline displayed, also looking at measurements within the atmosphere. So each particular Sentinel satellite has unique sensors on them and they all have their different applications. So when it comes to the number of satellites that are available on each particular Sentinel, it is just to ensure that they are all moving and also reduce the repeat period. If you have only one Sentinel satellite, you are going to have information, I think, every 12 days. With the Sentinel-2, you are going to have information every 10 days. If you have another or an extra satellite, which is more or less moving within the same orbit, you are going to halve the time that is spent collecting data or repeating its information collection at the same particular point. Now, it just doesn't end there because more and more satellites are being added. The plan is to be able to go from Sentinel-1A, Sentinel-1B, Sentinel-1C, and we also have Sentinel-1D. But in doing that also, you always need to make sure that you have your satellites in orbit before the previous ones run out of fuel. So that is the whole ideology behind some of these things, if that helps with your question.
Yeah, understandable.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other question before we round off? Again, all the recordings will be sent to you via email with some extra useful links as well. So once the recording is ready, it will be sent to the email address that you used to register. Unfortunately, we have a lot of instances where addresses are not typed up properly or there are mistakes with email addresses. So you get a lot of bounced emails. But whatever email address you use in registering the webinar, we will send you the recordings and any relevant material using that same email address. And we'll also use it to contact you for the next training if you choose to be a part of it. So once again, thank you all for making time to join this particular webinar. We'll inform you of our next webinar as and when it will happen, and then you would have the chance to be part of it also. I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude also to our speaker for the day, Ms. Pauline Okeyo. She just traveled and arrived back in Dubai today at her workplace. So to be able to make time for us and to deliver this very insightful and useful webinar for us, we really appreciate it. And we hope that you come back to us again to give us a more detailed webinar where we're just now going to take particular applications and use cases so that we are not cramming up a lot of information within this 1 hour, 30-minute mark. So thank you very much once again, Pauline. If you have any closing remarks, you can do it before we end today's webinar.
Okay. Thank you, Ignatius, and everyone involved, basically, just to extend the invitation to us. I think it's good to see it's such a diverse community you have, and just interacting with them based on the questions. It's very clear that there's a lot of usage in terms of the data being made available through your center. And there are so many ways that our tools can be applied in that. Yeah. So I look forward to other opportunities of this kind of interaction to be able to support more usage of Earth observation data through our technology. Yeah. So thank you so much. And thanks everyone for being patient enough to listen to me talk nonstop for all this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you also. Until we meet again for our webinar, have a wonderful day and the rest of the week. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.